All right. Hello, everybody. Is it working? Is it nice and live? Jonathan, Kalen, one of y'all.
I'm waiting for it. Give it a second.
Oh, looks like it's refreshing.
Link me.
Yep.
I'm not. Actually, what
Yeah,
is,
I can link it into Skype. Here,
Like,
there you
yeah.
go.
Oh yeah.
He's
I'm
live.
gonna pop out the chat so I can have access to the chat. There it is. Things that I should have done before I started, but you know, you learn, you live a little bit, you learn a little bit, and if you live long enough, you'll learn a lot, or not. I hear something in the background.
Sorry.
Is that Kalen just?
It's my bad. I got
Yeah.
a commercial.
Yeah, you need to turn off the audio because
Yeah,
it's just
I-
gonna echo.
It's like something. It's called. It's like a Netflix commercial. Actually, the commercial looks pretty badass. It's called Stranger Things.
Oh, that
Yeah.
looks amazing. It's like super Steven Spielberg-ish.
On the 15th.
Thanks, Twitch. All right.
Yeah, I'm actually really interested in that.
Yeah,
show.
watch that.
Yeah.
No, I'm gonna watch
No.
it, John.
No.
like there's a limit.
And then I'm gonna tell you about it.
Yeah, as John tries to watch it, like Netflix is like, sorry, Anthony Jones happens to be watching it right at this moment. You have to wait at least a few weeks before you can watch this, Jonathan. You're like, dang it. Next
That'd be
time.
like ultimate status where like you get to pay more because someone else is watching.
Yeah, me and Dan Garcia used to do that, where not pay more, but like we would watch shows together. Like I remember one time I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna watch Rocky right now," and he's like, "All right, I'll put it on right now too." And we'll both be at work, right? But we'll both like Facebook Messenger up, and so then we'll just both will say, "Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, play." So even if it's a little off, like if I'm a second or two ahead or he's a second or two ahead. We were actually have like genuine conversations about like, oh my god, I forgot how awesome that part was. He's like, yeah, it's dope, and we would be watching movies together. It was very romantic, very nice. We still should do that type of stuff, though, right, John? Like, remember we used to like have like guys' night out and we would watch like action movies.
Yeah, man.
I watched Armageddon,
Busy nowadays.
and I was just thinking about that. I was watching
Eating steak by myself now. I'm drinking.
steak,
Fair enough.
veggie steaks. Yeah, it's gonna be a whole different experience, but
Depressing.
anyway, so yeah, so this is again like a stream that I'm trying to get on. I'm trying to get into this habit of doing them as often as I can. If I see there's a lot of time that I have, I had a lot of work and stuff to do, and I had like a doctor's appointment and stuff, get myself checked out, and so all that's been done. I still have some stuff I need to get done, but I can at least put in an hour, get some good old streams. And then the next stream that I'll do, whether it's this week or next, or whether it's the weekend or not, it will definitely be when I'm going to test it at my home, because I'm going to start streaming from home, and so the internet isn't as reliable. So this is going to be a good. It's going to be an investigation proclamation in terms of like getting the right and appropriate bandwidth, but we'll see how it goes. Whenever I do my classes work fine, and if my classes work fine, then streams should be fine, generally. But you know, you never know.
Yeah, your internet's not too bad.
Yeah, I think if I'm
Should be alright.
plugged in, right? If you're plugged in, it's like changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's definitely what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna plug right into that bad boy, into my router. But yeah, and the reason why I want to do more streams again is because it's very valuable to reach out to peeps, and I really enjoy doing them, and it's really nice to kind of hang out and paint and talk with friends, and also talk with the peoples and answer questions and stuff like this. Like a thing that me and Kayla were talking about doing too, and this is probably won't happen for a while, but just something for you guys to kind of think about. We used to have this thing internally called like Feedback Fridays, and we're probably still going to keep it internal, like within the Robotpencil community. But the point I want to make is that we will probably come up with stuff that we can do for public, like maybe stuff like portfolio reviews. I think that's a good idea. Whoa, update successful, sweet. Sorry, just something got updated. And you know, with that being said, like allow other people an opportunity to you know, just get some insight from Kaylin and I, or any other person that we might have a guest speaker or guest people on the show. But like basically it's just going to be like a thing where we hang out, talk about stuff, talk about what's cool, talk about relevance, and also like, you know, just something that we did before, right? And another thing that I think we need to do to keep these going, so we don't have to worry about, like, we're just going to do them whenever we can, and whenever we can we'll put them on Facebook. So if you follow me on my Facebook, that's great. I have my Robotpencil official Facebook page, so I'm going to start using that as a place where we're going to start promoting a lot of this stuff. So then if you just follow that, you don't have to follow my personal one. You'll know everything that's going on, whether we're opening up new classes, or we're doing events, or we're hosting stuff, or we're not hosting stuff, or we're just invited to things. Just whatever's going on, whatever's relevant. Because, you know, for me, it's something that I really enjoy doing, and I just kind of like been working a lot. Like a lot. I've been putting in like 60-hour work days, or work weeks, work days. I built a time machine, right?
60 hours.
And what I did was make the day a little bit longer, and so I can work 60 hours that day. So, you know.
It's a hyperbolic time change.
Yeah. It's everyone else is moving super slow, but I'm like going real fast. But the point is that, like, I think it's really valuable to get back to the community. The community has been so great to us, you know? And, like, seriously, like, there has been some real, like, headaches that have been coming in and out. But throughout all that, everyone has been super supportive, really, like, tremendously supportive. Through all the stuff that we try to do and all the things that we try to get going. And it's really nice. And I think, like I said in my last stream, it's very valuable to start creating free content, because for one, I mean, like, a lot of people don't or cannot afford like any kind of formal education, right? And two, it's just like, it's definitely a great tool for us to, you know, promote and like let people know what we're doing and what we're up to. You know, like, that's just what it is. It's a win-win situation. And I was watching this video about like things that you can do to help you know, propel your adventures and stuff that you do. And they say think of win-win situations, because win-win situations are the situations that both people that are involved or both people that are involved are benefiting. And I think making free content is one of those things that is a win-win, right? Because we get to hang out and talk about stuff, answer questions frequently, and then also give access to things that we think are a little bit more, you know, higher tier, like our mentorships, which we just launched, right? We just like have our new mentorships available.
And our workshops.
Yeah, and we have a workshop that one of our students is putting together, like two of our students are putting together in Toronto. So we'll put those links right now in the chat, and we'll put them at the end as well. And so if you live in Toronto or near Canada's, or in Canada,
Not your buddy guy.
or like near Toronto or whatever, or your traveling is no issue for you, then I would highly recommend going to Toronto. For one, we're going to have a great workshop. It's going to be fun. Whenever like we get together, it's always a lot of fun. We make sure that the event's a lot of fun. We hang out with everybody. We talk to everybody, and we build it so that we do portfolios in person with literally everyone who attends. We have a format that allows that to happen, and it's great, and it's been fantastic every time we do it. And so if you really want to go and hang out and just really get to meet some of these great artists, I would highly recommend looking into it. And if you are looking to find places to stay with some people, like if you don't live there, let us know, like reach out to us, because we have like people that do this where they will get like an Airbnb and then share the cost. And that's a really clever and very intelligent way of going about it. When I went to Croatia, that's kind of what happened, right? Like our buddy Marco Neller, he got a place for us, and it was really nice, and we all just split the cost. It was very, very affordable. I think at the end we only paid for like the 5 days that we were there, like the whole week that we were there, we only paid like $75 or something like that. It was crazy. It was super cheap. Yeah, I was like, what? And it was a really nice place. Unfortunately, there was not enough like beds there, but like, you know, it really didn't matter.
You're not sleeping there 24/7.
Yeah, it
wasn't
didn't matter. It wasn't bad at all.
Yeah.
Seriously, and it was nice. And so that's what I'm saying. And it was like, you know, those types of events are like amazing. So that's just like my, like, you know, help to those who are like, I don't know if I want to go or I can go. because of this or that. Just trust that these types of things are really good. And then another thing to talk about is like Toronto's just a beautiful freaking city. I don't know if you've ever been, Kalen.
No, I have not.
Dude, it's freaking amazing. It's like it's a very beautiful city. Yeah.
And there's a big art community there, so that's what I'm kind of excited to kind of see as well. I mean, I feel like there's so many badass artists that come from Canada, so I'm like, let's see.
A lot of badass
water.
Just in general.
Yeah, what's in the water over there?
Like in South Park, they're building a wall. Hey, what's you got in that wall?
Here.
Fuck you, buddy. You stay on your side of the wall, buddy.
Yeah.
What?
So,
No, show me what's on that side. We are the ones that build the wall. We got cool stuff over here.
Letting us over their wall to see what's so cool about it. I'm excited. So I haven't been yet, but I'm looking forward to it. So it's gonna be a lot of great networking and just meeting people and just all that kind of fun stuff. Like it's gonna be really, really fun.
Yeah, man. Cheer.
Watch out, buddy, guys.
Yeah, and we just opened up our class, and then one of my classes is already going to be sold out, so I'm going to probably open up another class, probably another an evening class on the same days, or maybe a morning class on the opposite adjacent days. So I'm only going to be doing like 2 classes a month, just because I do really want my time as much as possible. And so I can, try to get a lot of stuff back on track and get really just in order of what I really want to get done. And here, that's kind of what's going to lead me to, like, the kind of the theme of this podcast, which was challenges, right? So I wrote challenges on the thing because I think that's a good way of doing this. Because I thought about, before I would, there's, so many ways that I would go about doing the streams. That I first had the names, and then I would write down all the stuff that I'll talk about. And, all that stuff required, a little bit more effort than I was able to afford. But even though it was bringing quality in terms of, the presentation, what really matters is I just need to do a stream. And all the things that I've ever taught and all the things that I've ever worked out for me, even right now, moderation has always been the tool to that, right? It's a super amazing tool that I very rarely use these days. I used to use it all the time when I was starting out as an artist. But now I barely use it. I'm always all or nothing kind of attitude. And it's actually led me in a lot of trouble and put a lot more challenges in my face. Like Biggie Smalls says, right? More money, more problems. And so I just started thinking about all these different solutions. And one of my other friends, Kalen, the other Kalen, we call him the white Kalen because he's white. He does this really amazing thing recently, which is he's been writing a book of short stories. And from all the times we've talked, and him and I have very similar personas, and we talk a lot, and we always have these really good conversations, and really amazing conversations, actually. In fact, it's one of my favorite parts of going to work is sitting down and just talking to him about stuff. We talk about politics, we talk about design and art and teaching and all these really amazing stuff, and it makes me it really is a great mind challenge to talk about stuff. There's some issues that I even have some certain perspectives on that I was maybe I'm not entirely right on that, or maybe my opinion is entirely flawed. I should reconsider it. And so talking with him all the time is really valuable. And one of the things that I saw him doing, and one of the things that we've realized together is something that works, is just moderation. So he's been doing this for almost a year, I think, or maybe a little more. And all he's been doing is just writing a short story. And he would spend about an hour, maybe 2 hours a day, maybe more on some days, maybe less on others. But he would basically just write and write and write and write. And one thing, one piece of advice I gave him was that he should read, because he wasn't reading a lot of different books. And I was that's probably the best strategy for you, because once you start reading books, you'll start to see what you can or cannot do, or the kinds of things that people are doing now, and get inspired by that, right? It's the kind of stuff that we teach our students. One student wrote recently on a Facebook post, it's hey, how do you guys find new and interesting ways to do new and cool stuff? And one of the things I always tell people is, if you don't know shit, you can't draw shit, right? And if you don't put anything new, you're not going to get anything new out. Don't expect anything new. And so one of the things that I kind of gave him, it was yeah, you should read more. And he did, and then sure enough, he was just oh my gosh, this is an awesome book about programming wizards and stuff like that, and it's freaking awesome. Basically the tagline is, this guy who basically finds the code of life, and he's like a programmer, and like so he starts to program like all these cool things that happen in his life, and all of a sudden gets out of control, and then he starts to basically he goes back in time so he doesn't have to deal with like all the drama that he's caused in the present time. But then he finds other time wizards who had the same idea, and all these programmers are basically dissecting like the code of the world, and it's like this really cool. Yeah, it's a really cool idea. And he was telling me about like the writing of it and how it's just like a lot of fun. It's very playful, and it got him inspired. And I was like, yeah, see? And he's like, yeah, man, that's totally like I'm reading this other book about this thing, and he was giving me all this like excitement about like what he's doing his project. But that got me thinking, like, what happened? Like, well, why did I stop kind of doing that? And so I took kind of like heed, and I say, I should start doing that too. So what do I really enjoy? Which is I love talking and teaching and really helping others out. That's really one of my favorite things to do. Because so many people have helped me out in my life. I feel like helping others is just something I just want to try to do, and more of. But how can I do that in moderation? And I said, well, I'll just do a stream. And then my mind started racing. Well, then I can do this with my stream, and then I can do that, and then I should do this, and then all these ideas start flooding, and I'm like, oh man, my stream will be amazing. And then I stopped myself right when I started thinking that way, and I was like, no, just stream. Don't worry about like what it can or should be. Just start doing it. Like, just do it when you can. Don't put any like, hey, I'm going to do it like every Wednesday, or I'm going to do it every Tuesday, or every whatever. Just like, nope. Just try to do as much as you can, when you can, and if you build a system around that in moderation, the habits will form naturally, right? So I already have that going for some other things, and it's already helpful because it's already keeping me accountable in a lot of ways, right? And so for me, I was like, okay, so if I'm going to do these streams, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do it in moderation, basically doing what I can. And then if John's not moderating, it's fine. I don't need a moderator. I can still do it. Just whenever works for me. When do I have like an hour that I can just sit down and do it without I don't have any other stress, really? I mean, or not as much stress going on, right? And then I was like, but how can I solve certain problems, like whenever I upload? Because that takes time too, like sitting there uploading and making sure that all the videos and stuff are like labeled. Like, I don't want them all to just be called Robotpencil stream, because then it's confusing. So numbering them could be helpful. But I was like, well, what if I just themed them and just put like kind of a common thing that I want to talk about? But it's not like, maybe not the 100% we're going to talk about, but it's just something that I want to talk about, and then we'll just move from there, right? And that's it. And as that grows, I'm sure I'll start being a little bit more efficient. As I start building more time for myself, I'm sure I'll be a little bit more effective. But if I really want this to stick, because I've been trying to get it to stick for a while, then I need to start small. I need to kind of do like 1 inch at a time, And it's something that I used to do a lot of back in the day, but now I've kind of not done that as much. And so it's really powerful, because even right now, like, I've been developing just like little side projects and doing stuff for myself, things that will allow me to hang out with my children a little bit more. And it's working out. It's actually pretty simple. I'm just doing really simple stuff, not committing a lot of effort, time, or money into it. I'm just committing just the bare minimum, and then just seeing how it goes. But not expecting it to be amazing, but expecting it to just become amazing, like grow into something amazing. Trusting that time and effort will be what pays it out. And so that brings me to kind of the whole theme in general, which is challenges, right? So a lot of times whenever people are painting or working on their craft or whatever their thing is, they run into a series of different challenges. And those challenges are generally the same, but they're skinned differently, right? What I mean by that is, like, everybody has relatively the same kinds of challenges, whether it's time, whether it's money, whether it's family, or whether it's like their country or their societal, or the society holding them back. Like, there is relatively very small, like, there's not a large list of challenges, right? But there's like sub-challenges within those challenges, sure. But one of the things that I think is important to understand is that those challenges look different with different people. Like, some people, like, what I mean, like, let's say, like, time, one person might have all the time in the world, but they're just mismanaging it. And another person can have no time in the world, and they're also mismanaging it, right? And that's kind of the point. And so it just looks a little different, but people will say the same thing. And so one thing that I've seen my students time and time again is like there is definitely a pattern to their madness, and I've seen and recognized a lot of those patterns, and I try to give them the best insight as possible, stuff that I've experienced, stuff that I've seen other people have experienced, and give them tremendously accurate and personal experience, as well as logical and factual based information, stuff that you can just think about, and you don't have to get too caught up in the semantics of it. You can just understand immediately what is being said. And so one of the things I would say about challenges is that challenges will come, right? They'll always be in your way. They're never going to go away. I don't think even the most successful, most wealthiest people, or people who are at least appear to be that, they have their own challenges. They have their own things that run into or get in the way. And so maybe it's not financial, right? So then for them, it's financial is probably not at all what the problem is, right? It might be social stuff like not being able to hang out with their friends and family as much as they would like. That's kind of the conundrum that I find a lot of myself and a lot of good friends of mine who are in a very similar position, who work really hard and are very successful in their careers and found really good jobs and such. But then they find themselves like working too much or working too often, and then having no time for the people that I actually care about. Like that's kind of the goal, is to work so you can to support the people you care about, but if they're not around, if you're not around to enjoy that, it's like, what's the purpose of that, right? There's a really cool I think the book title is 4-Hour Workweek, and a lot of the principles there is talking about how to gain back one of the most valuable resources you can ever have, something that you can never buy, something that you can never get back, which is time, right? So I look at like my children, like my daughter's almost turning 5, and I can't believe it, right? Like it's like she's already 5 years old, you know what I mean? Like it seemed like just yesterday she was just barely turning 2, and then my son is like turning 3 this year, and it's just like, what, wasn't he just born last year? And then like I have my teenage boys, and they're like my teenage boy is like 19 now, and my other one's 15. It's pretty bizarre, like how quickly like time just passed, right? And for me, like, I felt like nothing's really changed for me, right? I've been trying to get more time, but I've been doing it all the wrong way. I've been doing it by trying to take on more, because once I do it, I get the better payout. And I realize that's never going to work, because as you take on more responsibilities, and you actually inquire more challenges, and when you take on more challenges, that's when you start to slip up. That's when you start to make a lot of mistakes that could have been easily avoided. And that's what I'm trying to bring to a lot of you guys who are just starting out, because here's something that's happening. There's a huge flux in the ability to do and make your own content. In fact, I'm highly encouraging to a lot of my friends and my students to also look into the world of making your own stuff, because maybe you don't want to work for this X company, maybe you want to make your own company, right? And this world is allowing that kind of stuff to happen. It really is. Public distribution, or like distribution of products and stuff, is becoming so much easier. It's not like paper, like it's not like just like right away you can just print it out on paper and then you send it out kind of stuff. But it's getting there. I mean, there's services now that are outsourced, and you can outsource these things and you don't have to worry about it. I was looking into these 3D printing companies, and there's one called Shapeways, and they do 3D printing, and like I wanted to see how well and how effective they are, and I got a 3D printed little model thing for like $5. And I was like, $5? That's crazy. It was like super small, but I just wanted to see the viability of it. I think I paid more for the shipping than I did for the actual thing. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't realize they can do. You can do that like today. You know, if you have basic modeling skills, you just need to send the OBJ over, and they'll like say, yeah, we can print this. You know, a lot of like the VR tech, I think, is going to become huge in terms of tools. I think people that are going to make the first group of people who are going to make like VR tools, like Photoshop in VR, or like Maya or Autodesk type tools in VR, that are like things that I can make a 3D thing, but in a virtual space. Those are going to be one of the stepping stones, I really believe, for that technology. And those challenges will allow, like the challenges that they're going through right now are going to kind of start to open that door, because these developers will have the money and resources to be able to build these tools and spend the money on the tools and hardware and software. And I think a lot of what I'm trying to get at is that, you know, we're living in a time where I believe, like, imagine this, like you're a designer, right? And you're designing like for like industrial design, or like a friend of mine, Edon, is doing something like already. He's like building this robot arm. Have you guys seen this? Like he's like building like a real like robot arm from his own designs. It's so cool. And the fact that he could do that, right? Like he doesn't have to necessarily manufacture it. Like he doesn't have to actually, mine for the steel and iron to build this thing. Like he can just do it, and then some company will look at it and be like, yeah, totally. And he's looking into the whole amputee bionic arm stuff. Like, so it's not just like a concept. It's like, wow, this could be something that some people can actually have this fucking badass robot arm for an arm, right? Like, because he's a really functional thinker. So I believe he's going to make it, and it's going to be reality. And so my point is that, like, yeah, imagine you're in your home, you have the Vive or the Oculus, and you're designing like this robot, like this robot armor, and then you have a 3D printer at your house, right? And you just say 3D print the shoulder pad, you know, and then just and then like literally like 4 hours later, it'll be printed, or like overnight you'll have like your full set of armor for potentially printed. And as the tools get better, they're going to be cheaper, and then when they get cheaper, more people will have access to them, and when more people have access to them, more awesome stuff is going to happen. You know, look what's happened with just the Pokemon Go fiasco, right? Like just how many people took this tool, this game, and like now have found so many great applications for it. You know, it's a cool world we're living in. You know, and I think like with challenges, they're always going to be there though, right? There's always like, so even with the Pokemon Go, like there's the challenge of how do you deal with what just happened recently, where there's people who built a lure like in this like shady like corner of like this part of the city, and like people would go there to try to catch Pokemon, and then they like would rob them. They would rob these people. Luckily the cops, like, it just as easy as it was for them to rob these people, it was just as easy for the cops to find these people, because they would just go to the Lord like, the fuck you doing? And then just arrest them, you know. And we were talking about this at work too yesterday, like how it's kind of scary to think that, like, you know, you can like lure children into, like, there's like, I saw this really scary gif like of a child going into a van, and it's like, oh, there's a Charizard in here. It's like really like you gotta use your common sense. And I was talking to my coworker, I was like, there's gonna be a crap load of disclaimers. Yeah. You know, there's gotta have to be, because you might think, oh yeah, don't go in a back alley. No, like, if it's a people, Charizard, you gotta, yeah, people will go in a back alley, dude. Like, I did some stupid stuff when I was a kid, dude. Like, I mean, if there's kids, like, they're gonna do some non-sensible things. So, you know, as a responsible parent, I think you should tell your children, yeah, the Charizard's not worth it.
that's the genius of Pokemon. It's like real life. If you were real life going for a Charizard, you're like, is it worth it? I might die here. And you
like really die, yeah.
Yeah.
It's worth it. No, it's not worth it.
It's always worth it for a Charizard.
No, it's not. No, it's never worth it.
It's always worth it for a Charizard.
No, don't listen.
Alley, just get a knife and just to see what happens.
Robotpencil is not affiliated with anything that Kalen Chuck may say or do. Please, please react.
You win some, you
behave.
Lose. You win some,
with caution. No, man, don't do it. Don't go out in the, like, you just see a bunch of like just like young kids, like white kids, going to Compton. You'd be like, dude,
you
look
win
at all the.
You win some, you lose some. All right, that's all it is.
Yeah, and then they're just,
people don't make it. That's what it takes to be the best, man.
But here's the irony, or here's the twist. Like, they go there, and then the Compton guy's like, "Yo, this is my Pikachu," and he pulls out a Glock. And he's just like, "Get out of here! This is our fucking what do they call those, the arenas, like this?"
Gym.
Yeah, this is our battle gym, yo. And then there's like, yeah, these kids are like, "Nah, you know what?" And then there's like this gang war, like a real physical gang war, like with these like young kids that are under 10 years old fighting like these like thug life gangsters.
Not everyone's cut out to be a Pokemon trainer, and those people die. All it is, you win some.
Today,
You heard about that thing, right? About that old white guy that like got approached by like some shady black guys, but like they happen to be Pokemon trainers.
Yeah.
That shit was kind of cool.
Yeah, I mean, there's more positive, I think, that's happening. I'm not saying anything entirely negative. I'm just saying, the Charizard's not worth it. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I sat down at the park the other day and I was like,
Win some.
I'm proud to be a gamer right now. Because
Yeah.
people are outside just freaking, hanging out,
Yeah, dude, it's
doing
cool.
things.
That's really cool, dude.
This is great.
Win some.
Yeah, there's like the huge event that's going on in our local mall here at the Irvine Spectrum. It's like almost 600 people are going to be going. It's just going to be chaos. Just like people all over the place trying to catch Pokemon. It's going to be cool. That's really cool. Like hanging out with people is like really cool. Like
Yeah,
people like are making friends with complete strangers because of this game, and that's awesome. That's really great.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, like everything has its challenges. That's one of their challenges. It's like, how do they keep the pedophiles from being?
Terrorists. Hope the terrorists.
Oh yeah, ISIS starts using it.
Shit.
You just see Obama. He's like, "Yo, there's a Charizard in this. I'm gonna go get the."
Charizard.
The president has been kidnapped by ISIS, trying to capture a Charizard, and then we had to get Gerard Butler. We had to get Gerard Butler to save it.
Mason to come get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Sometimes you get kidnapped. Sometimes you get the Charizard.
Oh, there's a really funny post that someone did that shared, and I was laughing at like out loud. It's like it's so good. There's this guy who these kids like showed up to his house, and they knocked on his door, and they're like, "Hey, like, do you mind if we go to your backyard? Because there's a Pikachu back there."
Oh yeah.
And then the guy was like, "Oh man, how sweet is this? Like these little kids like coming in here, like it reminds me when I was a young lad, and like the world was my oyster." So then he slams the door on him, and he goes out in the back, and he's like, "Guess who got a Pikachu now, bitches?"
Dude, cold world. That's how you gotta do it. You gotta treat it like The Walking Dead. You don't know who to trust.
I was cracking up.
Man.
I was cracking up. I was like, "That's so funny."
You go and battle them afterwards.
Yeah.
Those kids lost one. They didn't win that one.
Yeah, those kids were not victorious.
You lose some. You trusted them, and you should have known. Should have known better.
Should have
just broke in.
Yeah, should have just broke into his backyard.
Should have just broke in, man. Just dip out and catch it. It's like
This
some
is
real
gonna be-
Pokemon stuff. You gotta go into some territory doesn't belong to you. Catch a Squirtle.
There's that like movie that's coming out that's about like Truth and Dare app, and people pay you to do certain dares. That's like a great idea for an app, but it's also like that movie kind of also points out the reason why that would not be a good idea. But that's such a great idea though. Like, it really is. Just like there's got to obviously be some fucking rules.
It's like the Fast and Furious app that when the movie came out, they were like, send us a picture of your speedometer and how fast you're going.
Oh yeah.
But then like one day they're like, oh yeah, we should.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, that's probably why this app does not exist. But the person that can create this app that is innocent, but like genuinely challenging, I think there's a lot of money to be had there, right?
Yeah.
And like people can do cool stuff too, right? If it's like if it was category based, right? Like if it wasn't like you could write whatever you want and charge whatever you want, because that's how human trafficking works. You don't want that stuff. I'm just saying, like if like something's really silly, like there's a card game that I saw Barnes and Noble that does something like that, where like the cards tell you to do something, like find a stranger and give him a hug, and then give him this card, And so then like you give them the card, and then what they do is then that person supposedly takes that card, and then they try to do it with a different stranger, and then you can go online to see, like, if let's say I'm like the 100th person that get the 100th person that got that card, then I can see where it was originated, like how far it went, which is a cool idea. Like these are kind of cool ideas. I'm not sure if people will do it, but like a smartphone is a much safer way of doing that, right? Like if you were to, or not safer, but like you can, hug a stranger, and you can just say like it's part of this app, and you can show it to them, and then you hug them, and then say get this app, and then like, then you will get this token, and then if you hug it, you share this token with somebody, and we'll see how far it goes, kind of thing. That's a cool idea, right? So it's kind of like the dare, but without like the unlimited amount of, or the unlimited option part of it, where you, murder this person for me for $500,000. Oh, dude, I dare you. You
lose some, dude.
No, Charizard is not worth it, kids. Charizard is not worth it.
Can't wait till I get my Charizard. Tell you.
You just see Kaylin on the news, like running from
Just
the cops.
on the freeway running.
Like the cops are chasing him.
Worth it.
He's like, I got it. Got the Pokemon. Check my
I was
status.
really proud of catching Pikachu.
Yeah.
It's pretty awesome.
Pokemon Go.
Don't want to burst your bubble, but they actually have an algorithm
But I did delete
that
the game
makes
after that.
What? All right. But anywho, just some closing thoughts of what I'm saying earlier about challenges. Yeah, guys, like, when things start to get better and work better for you, like, trust that there will still be things that get in your way. Really, trust this. I know, like, a lot of students will say something like, oh, once I work at this studio, like, I'll be good. Or once I start doing this, I'll be great. Like, my life would be better. Trust me, it doesn't work that way. If it did, it'd be great, but it generally does not. Even someone that might think that, becoming a millionaire, right, thinks that, like, things will be great, but trust that isn't true either. And so with that being said, though, let's go ahead and take some questions and answers. Or let's not take answers, let's just take questions.
There's really only one question so far.
Sure.
But
Anyone else that has any questions or any comments or want to say anything, please just put a Q before it so that John can find it easily. And then I will try to answer it. And Kaylin will try to answer it as well. We'll pass it on.
He was just asking what kind of brush have you used so far?
Only the round brush.
The whole time?
The whole time, yeah.
Sick.
The whole time. But it doesn't mean... so that question usually spawns from this idea of, like, what is the best kind of tool to use? And really, it all depends. Like, Kaylin uses a lot of texture brushes. But it makes sense, right? Because you're an environment artist. And even whenever I do environments, I like to use a lot of different texture brushes. Because it just helps bring a lot of life to an environment much quicker. A character is a little bit more intimate, right? Like you're not dealing with a lot of different materials usually, and even if you are, you don't really need texture brushes for that. You can just do cross hatching, and life is good. And I would say even for environments, you could probably use just one or two brushes. You don't really need to use a lot for them as well. But I mean, it just definitely helps. I mean, what's your experience with like using multiple or single amounts of brushes, Kaylin?
I mean, depends if I'm doing like thumbnails or not. Like even when I thumbnail, like I kind of just use maybe one or two brushes. I may use some photos here and there, but like the reason for environments, what you said is correct. It's mostly just because there's that one off chance that I need like this like pine needle brush that I'll never use it again. But in that one time that I do need it,
saves you tons of time. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but then like my first like 10, 15 brushes are like my go-tos that I just use all the time. But I actually organize mine with like, I have one section for basic, then I have like clouds, rocks, tech, all that stuff.
That's smart.
Like for 80% of the work, it's mostly just like the basic brushes. And then it's when I get into like fine detail that I have to use like a rail brush or like a tree brush or some kind of random texture that I need to do. Just because when you're painting environments, you got to paint everything, and it's kind of annoying sometimes. They're like, paint the grass, right? It's like to paint every blade of grass can be kind of annoying, right? So it's like, yeah, make a grass brush. But for the most part, I only use like 4 or 5 when I'm painting nowadays, even when I'm thumbnailing. I think my last stream that I did, I was only using like one like hard square brush.
Oh, really?
And like the entire thing. And I was like, yeah, I don't need to do anything else.
Yeah,
I get lazy sometimes,
Yeah, I think it just depends. So I wouldn't worry about it. Person who asked that question.
Yeah, but it's whatever works for you. Like whenever AJ comes to my place, he's just like my computer. He like fucks my computer up by like
I do
putting like these random.
I have sex with his computer.
Yeah, you put all
And
these
then I
colors.
change his hotkeys.
I'm like, what the hell are you
And have
doing?
more
He's like,
sex.
dude, you should make it like this. And I'm like, I do not use my computer like that. But
Yeah.
he uses
Like-
his computer way differently than I use mine.
I just like format your computer. I just uninstall everything.
All my hotkeys are different, and I'm like, why would you put that hotkey there? He's like, yeah, dude, because yeah, I do that. I'm like, all right, well, to each his own, you know.
Yeah.
So everyone has their own like kind of, level of comfortability, of being comfortable. So you just got to find your own thing. So just explore.
This next question's for AJ. It says, how do you get color to stick better and look thicker? Or I guess both of you guys can answer it.
Yeah. Sure.
Instead of the washed out look when going grayscale to color. I know you're not
Okay,
supposed to
sure.
go super bright or dark.
I'll do some color stuff. What time is it? Yeah, I have like 18 minutes. It's like more than enough time. I'll do some color stuff, but I'll let Kellen start to answer this question, and then I'll put in my 2 cents.
So your 2 cents about color.
2 cents?
2 cents. I'll put it in 10 cents. For color, it says so how to like not make it like too like washy, like it has to be like making more of a statement. I would say that the reason why you're probably doing that, it could be because of the brush. So like sometimes I notice students when like they're doing color, they get really like scared. So they try to use like a very kind of light brush with some opacity on it. So they're kind of like lightly putting the color in. And that usually comes from like they're not confident, like they want to kind of test the waters out first. Where I would just say get a brush that has like it's just complete like opaque, so there's no level of like
Oh, snaps.
lightly, you press lightly, it goes lightly. Just put the color in, and then just resample the next color. Keep putting the color in. That will kind of force you to kind of really know what color you're putting down. So the equivalent of that is kind of like drawing with pen. Where we draw with pen, like you have to kind of know what you're doing. You have to know exactly where the line's going to go. Whereas pencil, you can kind of draw it in lightly, and then kind of press harder as you kind of get more confidence as you go. So the same thing can apply with color. If you just put the color in, very lightly, and you're kind of washing it over, and you're not really sure what's happening, that's what can kind of be a result of that. Not to say that that's bad, but more so like trying to making a statement early on by just putting the color that you really really want in there in the beginning will make it easier, and then you can blend those out. So I think that's definitely a good way to help you if you're having trouble with that.
That's good advice. That advice, I would say, is good. Out of all the kind of advice I would say that's good, that advice is the kind of advice I would say is good. If there was anything that I could say that was good in this world, that advice was it.
Yeah. And if you're to further that, the best way to learn that too is just to paint traditionally, because when you paint traditionally with colors, like if you like you won't really treat it the way you do with Photoshop, where you just start painting everywhere. You're just like, oh, I gotta mix blue. All right, well, let me mix blue. All right, is this the right shade of blue? And then you'll probably like put the brush to the canvas, and you'll be like, wait a minute, is that the right color? And you'll probably test it a little bit first, and then you're like, okay, now I'm ready. And you put the color down, and you know it's right. In Photoshop, sometimes because it's so forgiving, you can just put the wrong color down, and you're like, whatever, Control Shift Z, and then it never happened. Or traditionally, if you kind of mess that up, then like you kind of have to own that, and you have to paint over it again. So traditional kind of makes you make better decisions sometimes, or it forces you to really kind of paint at like higher stakes, where like if you mess up, like you waste time, money, it's like paint and like supplies. So I think that's a great way too, personally, to help you get that. Like whenever I paint traditionally, it's like stressful. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna mess this up. So I don't know what color.
Yeah. So it's a lot of what Caitlin was saying is true. So another perspective is that usually people just don't have good strong understanding between colors and values, and like the value of colors, right? And so a few tips I'll give you right now for free, which is basically the more mid-tony, and darker mid-tones, like the darker, not like super black, but like a darker gray, and like obviously just like a perfect gray. That's when you start to get some of your colors that you're anticipating to come from it. Like if you wanted like a deep red, and then expect it to be, you need that color to be a little bit like that value to be somewhere in the darker range of midtones. Because if it, like, think about it, like a black is just black, and dark gray is like a brown, and then a bright gray is a pink. So if you wanted to have something like, you can see what's happening right now with mine. Like, so like if you can see, like with the values alone, like I had no anticipation of color. I was just painting it. But now that I'm trying to paint with color, I'm making adjustments to the values as well as adding some color here. You know? And if I want to get that red, it's like what Kaylin said, you just got to put it in. And I think what ends up happening is that if you build a system of painting your values where, like, you don't want to mess it up. And that's like a problem that I think a lot of students have, is that they feel like they did all this work and now they're going to screw it all up and they start putting colors in there. And the reality is, yeah, you probably are going to screw it up, you know? But that's why you got to do it often. Because the more you screw up, the more challenging it is, the more opportunities you're going to learn from that, right? And so never think of it like, oh, I failed tremendously terrible. Think of it as, okay, well, I see something wrong with what I'm doing. How can I improve this? And get some insight. Educate yourself. Like, try to figure out why that is happening, why you don't like the washout. So, like, for instance, this feels washed out, but is it washed out, or is there no comparative colors? There's no complementary colors. It's just really this kind of one tone of this, like, reddish pink, this maroon. So if I took this color and then just gave it a little bit of saturation and maybe just changed the hue a little bit and put some of this in this, bad boy, like, now that color might actually start becoming enriched, the colors around it, right? Because it has something to compare to, where before there was no comparison, right? And you can see when you're splashing all these different saturated versions of red, and all of a sudden you're starting to get that thing that you're talking about, like that kind of juice that you're looking for, all right? And that's really like what I've learned about like traditional painters, because traditional painters actually start off with a pretty washed, a washy palette in the beginning, and then they start splashing in these super saturated colors, and then they go back over those saturated colors with, again, another very muted, desaturated color, because those saturated colors, as slightly saturated as they are, will actually add a lot more contrast to the original colors, and so then it becomes this, it doesn't become as washed out as it was before, right? But you have to always still be cautious of your values, right? So this background is kind of slightly warm. So what if I cooled it and then started painting this as the background color? You know, see how that changes it dramatically, the feeling of it, right? Going back to kind of the whole point. There's nothing to compare it to. You had light red next to bright red next to dark red, so it's just going to feel washed out, even if you were to paint that by hand, you know? But if you put light red next to kind of rustic orange, next to like a cadmium red, next to kind of like a more desaturated, lighter red, then you're going to get a lot of this cool color variation, and the values are generally not going to be screwed, because look what I'm doing now. I'm putting a very desaturated tone in here, and that's just adding more sense of color, isn't it? You know, now if we compare this this top part of this helmet to the chest plate, absolutely it feels washed out, right? But I have all the values and color palettes I need right now from there. But one thing I can already tell is happening is I'm losing the values in terms of the form, so I'm going to bring that back by doing this. And I'll go back over here, grab this blue, and just chop it right out, the silhouette again. And that just comes with experience and some little bit of practice in color theory. Like, color theory is not as complicated as most people think. What it really comes down to actually is just like really practicing and seeing color for what it is, you know? That's what it is. Like, it's not hard, because it's like, I don't think people cannot understand that red goes against green, you know? Like literally look at the color wheel and then bam, you know all the complementary colors. You can understand triad color theory. You can understand analogous. Like these things you literally can understand by just looking at a color wheel. And then the next step is like to understand how to apply them to your thing. And then again, that's something that's not very complicated. But where the complexity comes from is that fear of failure, right? And knowing that it's probably not going to look as good as you want. You spent all this time on the black and white, because black and white, all you're dealing with is just shades of gray, right? But with this, is like you're getting a lot more out of it, and in terms of the final image. But the point of what I'm trying to get at is that if you really want to get better at colors, you just got to keep doing it to the point where you can start seeing the value in your color. Like you can see that this is a very lighter tone or this is a darker color. Not so much, you're not looking at it as for red or as blue. You're looking at it as that's a very light value. But I just happen to use a light red in this instance. You know, for me, like if I wanted to add a light value, I'm going to go with the orange, so I have like some mixture of color and saturation and value all at the same time, but it's all being hand placed because this thing kind of looks rusty and I want to make it look more rusty. Why not? And if I want to add more saturation, I can, but I'm only going to splash it in some spaces, and once I have it, I'll just grab it and then just move it around. So hopefully that helps. Just a little bit of some free knowledge improving. Tight.
Yeah, there's quite a few questions, and we have 7 minutes till the hour.
Okay, so let's just go through them a little bit quicker.
This one says, when's AJ coming to New Zealand so I can fight him?
Oh, hell yeah.
When you come in New Zealand, eh? Or I'm gonna fight you. You going out of Illinois? Yeah, it is Illinois.
You going down nowhere?
I think that's Australian. I know that you guys are different places. I'm not ignorant, but I am slightly ignorant. I don't know, man. The better question is, why don't you come to States? Ooh.
That's Suhail, by the way.
Yeah, I knew it was Suhail. I had a feeling it was Suhail.
This next one says, is the character bootcamp only a month long with deliverables every day?
There's every 2 days. There's the Wednesday and Friday, or if you're in a different class, if I have another setting, it's just basically whenever we meet up. And the deliverables, the way that we handle that is that if you, in this Kalen's class is very similar, which is that we basically critique it, and then you have like a day and a half to work on the critique, and then we critique your ability to take the feedback, which is a very powerful learning tool. Because then, like sometimes if you have like a week long and we don't see you for a while, what ends up happening sometimes, not all the time, is that like maybe you misconstrued what we were asking or what we told you to do. So then having that time to meet up again and be like, oh, you totally did what I asked. Great, let's move on. Let's move on to the next set of stuff. Or it seems like you're still not getting it, you know. And it's just more time to just be together and hanging out, and talking to each other, right? The class is really built around finding people's weaknesses, exploiting those weaknesses, and so that they can see that for themselves, and then helping them get past them, helping them grow past it. Like, we're really good at doing that. A lot of our students have excelled, and now they're like doing crazy. Like one of our students just posted this amazing cinematic that I'm still like can't believe it. It's like better than anything I've ever done. And I told him, I was like, you are now the master. Like for real, I for real believe this. I'm not saying that as like a high praise or compliment. I truly think that Mulan is like better than me, and he's like a better like artist, better person, just better thing in this planet. And so I'm very proud of everything, and I'm proud to know him. And like, a lot of my students are like that. Like Lip is that way too. Like, oh man, he's doing
awesome.
like amazing animations too. I'm like, what in the world? Why are you guys so good?
Using actual paper.
God, that's so cool, dude. So yeah, like it's just crazy to start seeing. Like we had this prediction like when we first started, and we started seeing our students killing it. We're like, you know, we believe like in the next few years, and this was like a year and a half ago, that the industry would be taken over by a lot of our alumni, and it's kind of happening. And I think it's just only going to get bigger and bigger. I think in like a year, not even like a year or two, the industry is going to have a lot of robot pencilers murdering it.
Believe it.
I believe it. Catching
Believe
Charizards in Compton.
Win some, lose some.
No, you only lose.
Someone's got to catch the Charizard, so someone's winning.
Today on the news, the Crips and the Bloods have decided to actually take on the colors of the Pokemon teams and really embraced it. And they are protecting their gyms with real brute force.
Hashtag want some.
Hashtag Bloods equals, what's the red team? Are they the Mystics? I forget. Anyway.
The Mystics.
Hashtag Bloods. Hashtag Mystics. Oh man.
This next question says, "Hey guys, I'm going to be applying to an internship at a studio who
Oh,
are
sweet. Good luck.
currently working on a zombie game. Do you think it's a good idea to do a project based on their current games they're developing for your portfolio for when you apply?"
Oh yeah. That's never a bad idea. If you can show them that you can do the work that they would probably have you do, I'd say that's a good solutions.
Good
Yeah,
strat.
like no one's gonna be like, and I hate when I get hired. Like it does happen actually. It's like it's not that no one does this, but like I hate when I do get hired at a company or a studio for something that like I don't have in my portfolio at all. Like they'll be like, "Yeah, you have these monsters and demons and like 3D robots and get some VR stuff going. Do you want to make scissors?" I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, can you design some scissors? I think your scissors would be epic." And I'm like, "All right." And I designed scissors the way that I would think scissors would be designed, like these really grotesque monster scissors.
Like,
You're like, no, like like play school scissors, scissors that kids can have. So what did you think was going to happen when you signed up for this? All right, cool, man. Talk to you later. It's only not that I don't mind working on stuff that I don't have in my portfolio. I actually love doing it because it challenges me. It just blows my mind sometimes whenever I get feedback that's like, hey, pull back from the zombie monster stuff that's in your portfolio and the stuff that we're asking you to do. And I'm like, what? So yeah, I mean, it makes sense if you have work in your portfolio that the company would actually want to hire you for, because they'll hire you for it. The real question is it any good? That's the better question to be asking yourself. I would say focus on quality, even if it has nothing to do with the subject.
What is a original piece of art you wish you owned?
What's an original piece of art? Like someone else's art?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. Yeah.
Like not my art, but like an artist that is not me,
Yeah.
but is of a different skin and color.
Yes.
Someone that is from a different breed of man. Okay. That is a great question. I don't think I have an answer for that right away. Do you have one, Kaylin? Let me think about it for a second.
There's some things like when I used to be at ILM that were some like crazy matte paintings like on the wall that I could probably think of
Yeah.
there that like if no one was there I would probably just
Yeah, you know what?
you win some you lose some.
Yeah.
I'd probably lose that one. I'd probably force choke on my way out, but like probably stuff like that or like Ralph McQuarrie, like some of those like old school
Yeah,
guys.
there you go. I think like like a original. Then now I get it. I think like for me it would be like anything done by Leyendecker. That would be boss. Like
Yeah,
anything that he
Frank
did,
Rosetta,
it wouldn't
right?
matter.
Rosetta? Like
No, Leyendecker.
Oh, fine.
Rosetta's dope, but Leyendecker's doper.
Or Carlos Fuente sculpture.
No.
When you aren't actively drawing or painting,
Sorry, Gil.
how much of your day is spent thinking about art versus observing versus just being present with what you are doing?
I'm pretty observant. I observe freaking anything and everything. I feel like that's part of our job as a creative person. I don't even say like as a person that's an artist. Like if you're a creative mind or work in a creative field, you better be paying the attention to everything around you, because you never know when it's going to be useful. And like, so I'm doing like this side project right now where it's just like just making little kiddie games for my kids and stuff, and stuff that I think even adults can play. But like all the stuff that I was able to observe from like working at game studios and like listening to game designers talk and having those kinds of conversations with a lot of great good game designers, it's like all coming back, and it's cool because I'm listening to some podcasts with these really awesome board game designers, and I'm like listening to a lot of what they're saying, and a lot of it rings true to game. There's always like a foundational knowledge to like everything, right? And it's all very similar, like even like concept art, to like board games into video games. Like there's always like a very similar principle being said, and for me it's pretty cool to see that like all that wisdom, right, like is helping me now, right? And so I encourage people to acquire wisdom, like knowledge that is like a little bit more granular, like that's like knowledge that will transcend your tools and even your career, things that can make you work in a different field potentially, just by the principle of it. And I think that's best money spent or best time spent is putting all your leveling up points into wisdom. And yeah, I mean, for me, like I'm always observing and I'm always practicing. Those are probably the most valuable tools I ever employed in my whole career. Observing and practicing. Whether it's 3D, 2D, designing, animation, modeling, whatever, like always looking at it and saying, that's pretty cool. And how could that work with something else? That's all really creativity is. It's just a combination of ideas that people didn't really consider before, right? Like nothing really new is coming out. It's just that, hey, there's this augmented reality and there's Pokemon. Put it together, you got people going into Compton trying to capture Charizard. There's you can go meta to that, right? Like people gather together for events, and you got this game where people gather together to play a game. It's just like there's nothing new about it. It's just they're using Pokemon Go to do it, and it's just like a very interesting idea because it's like taking two worlds. Like the whole idea of digital technology, like smartphones, is that people are removed from the world, but this technology is now people putting together people. It's not like people have never congregated. It's not like strangers have befriended each other because of common interests. Like that happens. But it's just like the way it's happening is a little bit different, and that's why it seems so new, right? And so the creativity is just a matter of like capturing a lot of that, and being observant and practicing a lot is the best tools to do this.
This next Wednesday is.
Well, how many more do we have? We should probably do lightning round.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, lightning round it. Let's go.
Any tips on building a portfolio? I'm not sure how to go about building my portfolio.
Yeah, just look at artwork that you think is amazing and try to emulate the quality of that artwork and put that kind of work into your portfolio. Look at, like, you live in a time where there's a lot of great examples of what portfolio work looks like. Use that advantage to always scale your work to that, right? Not saying that like you should be like, okay, every day if I'm not at that level, then I suck at life. It's just like, okay, this is where I need to get, and this is the kind of portfolio I should start building. And being proud of what you do, like even if it's not like at that level, just always aim for that and put it in your portfolio. And as you get better, you'll have better pieces, and then just replace the bad pieces with better pieces as you go along. And the next thing you know, all of your pieces will be great, and you won't have any bad pieces anymore. And your portfolio will be really outstanding to look at. But portfolios should be basically whatever the hell you want to work for. Like if you want to work for a trading card game, then you should have trading card game kind of artwork. If you want to work on concept art, then you should have concept art work in your portfolio. Don't put something in your portfolio that you don't really want to work on, because people might hire you for that. And it sounds like a good thing. Trust me, it's not. Any advice, Galen? Like a 1 or 2 minute advice on that?
Yeah,
same for environment artists. It's pretty. Yeah, it's pretty similar. So there's nothing really.
Yeah. If you put Hello Kitty Island Adventure in your
oh yeah,
in your portfolio,
you're gonna get work, dude. Oh, dude, people need that work, man.
People need that work. Yeah.
Now the question is, do you love it?
Hello Kitty stuff all day long, then
there's no problems. Then you're freaking squared away if you love it.
Yeah.
That's why. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, like one time, like in Spain when I was working in Spain, like they needed UI. And I hate doing UI. It's like the bane of my existence. So even though like I know how to do it, I will never put it in my portfolio. If someone asks me, I'll just be like, no. You see the UI in my portfolio? They'll be like, I'm just wondering. And I'm like, word. Because as soon as they see it, it will come out and they'll be like, hey man, do some UI.
Yeah.
The next question says, have you guys read any books that have helped you understand more about challenges and how to overcome them?
I haven't read any books, like physically read. I've listened to a lot of audiobooks. There's a book called Good to Great. That's a good one. 4 Hour Work Week. It's a good one. Eat the Frog is a great one.
Eat the Frog. I'll play that.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah,
It's one of the best.
Frogs.
started reading that one.
I was also the perfect catch, the perfect climb. What's that Bobby Chew one?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Yeah, perfect catch. That's called perfect catch.
Yeah, Bobby's has a lot of excellent sources for that kind of stuff.
Those guys are awesome.
A local at Toronto.
I don't know. Are they gonna be around? We should hit them up.
Yeah, maybe.
This next one says, not really a question, but I just wanted to say thank you to Kaylin for introducing me to the Robotpencil. You guys have been extremely helpful to me for getting
Sweet.
better at painting. I had you as an instructor at CGMA as well.
Word. That's what's up.
Sweet, man.
We need to update. We need to create a page actually on our Robot Pencil website of success stories. Because I don't know if you've been noticing in the chat, we've had a lot of success stories.
Oh yeah, we've talked about doing this, and we really do, but
Yeah.
it's time and resource. We have to just again moderation.
In the future, we'll do that because in the past maybe 6 months, we've had at least like 2 or 3 people get gigs, freelance, full-time jobs.
Some are starting their own companies.
Yeah, and then
Cool.
one person is moving is made it to America. Got a job in America, and it's coming from Brazil to America. And that was like his biggest job. And after taking the class, he like got it. And now he's like super excited. So I was like, hey,
That's awesome.
It's very cool.
yeah, gotta share that with the world.
This next one says, what do you...
Perfect bait. That's what the book was called. Someone put it.
Oh,
up.
thanks.
There you go. Sorry, not the perfect catch.
Says, what do you think about the
Charizard.
tricks? Tricks such as color dodging, etc., color burn, are they overused in the industry?
Everything is overused.
Yeah.
It's just about how you use it. I mean, I use color dodge, color burn, all those great tools. It's just how you use it.
True that.
That's it. It's really like if you do it a lot, like, and if it's like it's like good special effects or the special effects you don't see. Like, you ever heard about that? Like saying, like if you don't see the special effects, then that's great special effects. Like if you don't actually see, like there's like a lot of movies that have tons and tons of special effects, but you don't realize it. Like even if for like a romantic like comedy or something, right? Like every actor is like not the same actor, or like they're not in that environment because of special effects or matte paintings are just that good that you really thought that they were in like that place, you know? That's the same way I look at like painting. Like if people can see that you're doing like crazy color dodges, then you know they're gonna. There's a taste to that. Some people actually enjoy it. Some people hate it. You know, like if I was just like, yeah, color dodge, color dodge, color dodge, and left my life like that, then you know, cool. But usually whenever I do color dodge, which I do, I use it often, especially for like metallic stuff. I'll do like a very subtle, like it's just very very subtle, and I'll sharpen it like right where it can be sharpened, and it's on its own layer, so I can like bring it down a notch, you know. So it's super subtle. It's not like in your face, but you know sometimes it's cool to kind of make it in your face, just like make something super shiny. And Ross Tran, right? He loves it, man. Nothing wrong with it, dude. Nothing wrong. His work looks better because of it.
True that.
Color dodge time.
Super
Next
sick.
one is, how's your schedule looking nowadays compared to when you started? Has it gone up or down? And what would you recommend for someone with a month of free time before responsibilities set back in?
Just make a list of stuff you want to get done during that month. Lists, powerful. That's it. That's all I gotta say about that. Like I'm still working on trying to have a better control over my time management. But like I'm really gauging, like a lot of my advice goes back to when I used to be really used it very well, but I factor in that all I had to worry about was one thing. You know, I didn't have like kids and like a wife and a family. I had like art. That was it. And so as more responsibilities come into my life, I realized that taking on more responsibility was not the solution. Like I was like, well, I should do all this extra work so I can take care of my family better. But then like it made me bad at everything else I was doing. I was doing everything bad because I was dividing my time too much. So I'd say stay focused, make a list of things you want to get done, and just do them. Stay pretty disciplined.
This next one says, just a quick technical question. AJ, how are you jumping on and down in brush size so quickly?
I have hotkeys for that. It's R and T, but it's just the brackets. The default, it's just the brackets.
How do you get good at painting like a sculptor, for example, painting planes or surfaces?
Actually, do some 3D stuff. It's pretty powerful. You start seeing and feeling 3 dimensions a lot easier.
This next guy said, let me pay you to learn 3D character design. Oops, that's a statement.
What? John's dropping the ball in moderation.
That's what he said, stupid.
What? What? Did he just call me stupid, or you called me?
Yeah, he just called you stupid.
Oh, okay, I see.
Fight him.
This guy said, Anthony, you're stupid.
Okay. That's exactly all he said. All right.
We'll take this last question. It says, I
Not
want
debatable.
to create a prototype for a game by contracting some programmers and creating my own art. I am a 3D environment artist. I want to avoid asking for crowdfunded money without a downloadable, fully functioning prototype. Do you think
Very smart.
this is a good approach?
I would say you should have your vertical slice or your MVP, minimal viable product. Basically, you should have not only the game design, the game programming, the game art, to where you think it should be at its minimum. Basically, it shouldn't be kind of what it could be. It should be like, this is what it is. We just need to make more of it. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like we already have the game mechanics in place. We already have the game design in place. We already have all of this stuff in place, and we just need to be able to spend another year or two on it. But even then, I would say just make the game. That is like probably the best route. Because then, if you use any crowd source or like Patreon or whatever kind of prototype for making extra income to help you out, there is really nothing at stake because you have finished it. You know, maybe you need like another few months of polish and maybe some, localization of it. You know, stuff that like you don't really may not know much about, and that's what a publisher will help get you to do and stuff like that. But like if you have a product, like if you have it, that is like the most viable way of doing that, because any other way puts you in the circumstances that I don't like. I put myself in that circumstance, and it's just a very bad one. And I wish I was the only one that made that mistake. Trust me, there are many people that make this mistake. And like, there's one that just came out, which was a game. It was the Mighty Number 9. Have you heard about this game?
Yeah, it's good.
Oh no, it's not good.
You haven't played it?
No, I haven't played it. Like, everyone hates it.
Oh, really?
Have you played it?
It looks tight.
No, everyone freaking hates it, and that's the point. Is that this guy basically had like a 4-year, he had like a 3-year as well, like a Kickstarter, and he got like $4 million, and then he had an extra Kickstarter outside of that Kickstarter to get more money, and then he started another project, and then he had like a PayPal thing, and basically the game finally came out, I think like a few months ago, and it just got terrible reviews. It's like completely buggy, or not buggy, but super laggy. There's a lot of things that people just didn't like about it, and that's a product of like these people just mismanaging their time, right?
I was excited about it because it looked like Mega Man.
Wait, say it again.
It looked like it was like a Mega Man type game.
Oh yeah, that was the whole point. Yeah, you should look into it. You'll be shocked like how it turned out. And now people are kind of looking at what's going on with Star Citizen, because it's still in development, right? And it's the same thing. It's just like this great idea, but like whenever you give people too much time and too much money, it's sometimes like goes bad. It really does, right? And so my advice to that person is, like, if you really are considering this, then you need to build it. Like, it needs to be like, you should be able to play it, and it should feel like the game. You know what I This is what real game studios do, right? Like before they pitch to a publisher, game studios and game companies will actually make the game, right, and actually have it fully working. Like, okay, look at this, for example. The God of War, the game trailer that just came out, right, for God of War. Like, that is, they're still working on the game. I can promise you that. Like, and it's probably, like, needs another year of development. You know? And that is a fully functioning company that's been kind of sitting on making this project for probably 2 years before that, right? And when you see that trailer, like, that's they figured it out. They figured out the game mechanics. They figured out how it's going to play. They've probably figured out the storyline. They just got to now build it. And there's going to be challenges along the way, sure, right? But a lot of confidence is already there. They have it. They have established IP. They have like all this stuff, you know, and a award-winning team to build it. So like if you're not in that circumstance, like I'm not trying to say that it's not possible. I'm just saying don't make the same mistakes as others made, like myself included, where you think it's well, you know, I got it, and then if I just make something that's just enough, it'll be fine. Yeah. Like no, go more than enough. You know, make it like actual thing, and then that way you will have a lot of confidence going into board meetings with people. You'll be able to explain your literal game to them because they can actually play it. You will have such a profound insight to your own game because you've been through like the turbulence of building it, you know, and so there's nothing really that can hold you back. And so I would say, yeah, like, you know, just actually build it. Start gray boxing it now. Like, why even wait? You know, start gray boxing it. Start to do your own programming if you can. You know, you don't have to have amazing art for the gameplay to get into motion. You know, just start making it, start building it, start playing it. Like a really great game designer, a better game designer than I said along the lines of, you know, you spend 10 to 15% of your time building the idea, and you spend the other 75-80% of your time playing your game. You know, like you want to be playing your game as soon as possible because that's where the money shot is, right? Like that's where, if you're making a video game, it needs to be a game. It needs to be fun. It needs to be challenging. It needs to be rewarding. And I trust that you've played many a game that looked terrible, but were insanely fun. And then vice versa, I'm sure you've played games that look amazingly beautiful, but insanely boring. Right? We've all played those games, and we all know what we're talking about, right? So, like, keep that in mind, and I wish you the best of luck, and let me know how it goes. Hope you're the best, man. If you ever want any advice from people that are in that situation, I know a lot of people that are still kind of going through this hurdle. You know, I can try to put you in contact with some of these people so you can get some objective feedback and their experiences with it.
So his response to you was...
I talked to John Rhee about that. That actually would help.
Yeah, we know a lot of people that are going through this, like,
I'm going
as we're saying.
Now, like, working on a Kickstarter. Like, one thing to kind of add to what AJ said, AJ talks forever.
I do.
You want to keep it, like, you want to do it this way. So when, if you ever look up this game called Coda Games, it's called Liege. It's a game that me and my friend John are working on. This is Korean John, not John. But when he approached me with the game, he had literally everything done. So usually when I get asked by Kickstarters, like people go, "Hey, I have this Kickstarter idea. I need you to do all the artwork, and I might pay you if we make some money off of it." That's not a very good way to kind of approach it, because then someone's like, "Wait a minute, so it's not even done, and we might get paid, and it might work out." And he's like, "Yeah, you know, does that sound cool?" It's like, no, not really. But when John approached me a few years back, he was like, "Hey, man, I had this idea. I'm working on this project. It's currently getting funded. I've done everything. I learned how to program. I learned how to draw. I made a nice vertical slice. Just check it out. Let me know what you think. I heard you're in these kind of games. I'd like to work with someone that was passionate about the same kind of things that we're into. Let me know." And when I saw it, I was like, wow, this guy did all this by himself. I was like, I'm down. And so the reason why that's important is because he came to me with the leverage of either you can come along for the ride or not. Because if I chose to not work with them, it wouldn't have mattered to him. He's like, the game's still going to get made. It's either do you want to be a part of it or do you not want to be a part of it. As opposed to other people that came to me and said, hey, we need you to do this artwork so we can make this money. And if you don't, then I don't know what I'm going to do. right? He didn't wait for someone to come and like do the work for
Yeah.
him. He's like, I'm prepared to walk this journey entirely by myself, and then whatever happens happens. And so luckily I end up joining him, and the game's been doing pretty well thus far. But even then, the game is actually like almost 2.5 years late because we hit all these problems. But even that isn't really a problem as long as you are upfront about it. As long
Yep.
as we're upfront about what's happening, and that's the one
Totally.
thing that I can say me and John do very, very well. Mostly, actually, John, is that we do like a monthly, like a month and a half update every single time we can do on the Kickstarter, and we always tell people exactly where we're at with the game. And we never do anything. Like most people don't even really care if you're late, to be honest, because most of the time you just say, "Hey, it's gonna be late," but it's because we're making a quality product, and we don't want to release it if it's shit, because they're gonna get mad at you if you release a crappy product. So as long as you let them know like why it's late because you're trying to make it better, then they're cool about that. Where I think problems happen is where you don't say anything for a long period of time, and then they're like, "Well, what the hell happened?" And then you just don't communicate. But luckily, we've been communicating with people literally like every other month, every 2 months, and and the support is awesome because they're just like, "Oh, cool, awesome, man, can't wait for it to come out." They're like, "Take your time." They're like, we want it to be done when it's right, so that way we can enjoy it. It's not buggy, it's not whatever. So that's the thing I would say is be prepared to walk that entire journey of making that game by yourself if needed. So that way there's no leverage being held over you. And that's the one thing I respect about John so much is that he learned how to program. He learned. I mean,
That's crazy.
he learned like, and the thing too is it may not take a long time. John Rhee, the cool thing about him is that he had no game design experience. He actually worked in New York, kind of in finance or something like that, and he knew a little bit of programming. So for 2 years after work, he would go and program a little prototype, and he made a game. And then after that, he learned how to use Photoshop, and he got like a little drawing pad and stuff like that. And he figured all that out in the course of a 3 year kind of deal. And then from there, he released the Kickstarter for it, and then got funded. So just the prep work for that was 2.5 years of grinding, every other day whenever he could. He put his time into it. And then now, fast forward 3 more years, so 6 years in total, he's still working on it, but he's still very dedicated to it because he's very honest about it and he's prepared to walk that journey. Some people don't have that. Some people have this idea of let's just get rich and let's just make my game and as quickly as possible and do that. But just know that it may be a long ass journey for yourself. And so as long as you're prepared for that, you should be good.
Sick.
Yeah.
Hey,
What-
so thanks.
Cool.
But yeah, some stuff you guys want to hear.
Sure.
Said,
I gotta get going.
absolutely, that would be the plan, even before crowdfunding, beyond the fully functioning MVP vertical slice. I'd have the whole project structured, timeline, and resource planned.
Yeah, I mean, trust that even that is something that you might not be able to control. Like, the best thing you can control is having something done and ready to show. Like, even big companies ran into this problem, right? Like, Double Fine was one of the most popular, it was one of the first companies to make $3 million, or like millions of dollars on their Kickstarter. And they even still had to get money outside of their Kickstarter to finance it. And because they ran into things that they didn't expect.
Exactly.
Like you think that like a good old spreadsheet will really help out. I mean, it definitely will. I'm not saying it won't, but like what really helps is like if you actually have something like Japan studio, Sony Japan, Last Guardian. They had to send an American executive over there because they just were taking way too long. It was like 6 years in the making, and they're like, "Why is it taking so long?" Like we have another company here, Naughty Dog, who has just like made basically 3 games in the same 6 years, and all of them are hits, And so it's like, there's something that needs to be said about like it. Start doing it, and then you'll start understanding a little bit better. Like I don't even know the complexity of it, So I hope that it works out, though. I'm in your side of the court, man, and you have a lot of great examples of what to do and what not to do. So I gotta go.
Tight.
Peace out, guys.
Tight.
Thanks for the awesome streams. Thanks for all the great questions. I hope to see you guys really soon. Yeah.
Toronto,
And-
on out. Post the link again. Zabby, if someone's there, post it up.
I'll post it.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll post in the
Last-
links the Robotpencil mentorship stuff that we have going, and then also the stuff that we're going to be doing in Toronto. We'll post it right away, right now.
When's your class starting up again, AJ? People probably want to know.
In August,
Oh.
August 17th.
August 17th.
Well, that's the Twitch, John. You need to send them the Robotpencil. Reading is overpowered.
Yeah, August 17th. I got one, and September 5th, and then we got Toronto, September 3rd and 4th. Let's do it.
All right, guys. I got to roll out now. It's time for me to go.
Good show.
Peace out, friends.
Amen.
Bye.